Hi, my name is Rachel Paxton, and today I'm going to show you how to make and can the best salsa. You're going to learn how to make and can homemade salsa. I'll lead you through the process step by step. I'll give you the recipe and a canning supply list that you can download and print out for future reference. You will find those in your course materials. You'll also gain the confidence you need to try more canning recipes on your own. My name is Rachel Paxton, and I'm a freelance writer and mom of 5 children ages 28 to 6. This is me and my husband Dave. We've been married for 20 years, and these are 3 of our children. Christian and Zachary are twins. They're almost 11, and Trenton is 6. We also have a 28 and a 26-year-old daughter. I've been canning for more than 20 years, and I'm the owner of the website creativehomemaking.com. For this recipe, you're going to need 8 cups of tomatoes, 2½ cups of onions, 1½ cups of bell peppers, any color, 3 to 5 jalapeno peppers. This will make a medium salsa, so if you want a really hot salsa, you want more like 8 jalapeno peppers. You need 6 garlic cloves, 2 teaspoons of pepper, a tablespoon of salt, a cup of white vinegar, 2 15-ounce cans of tomato sauce, and 2/3 cup of clear gel, which is optional. You also need a boiling water canner, a canning rack if you're using your own stock pot, a jar lifter, a wide mouth funnel, 4 to 5 pint canning jars. A vegetable chopper is optional, and disposable gloves are optional. This is what a boiling water canner looks like. If you don't already have one, you can get a kit from Amazon for about $32. It comes with the pot, the canning rack, the wide mouth funnel, and the jar lifter, so that's a pretty good deal to get all that for $32. There is a link to that on the supply list that is in your course materials if you need to order one of those. This is what a canning rack looks like. It fits in the bottom of the pot. If you want to use one of your own stock pots for boiling, that's fine, but you need a canning rack in the bottom of it. These cost about $10 to purchase separately, or they also come with your canning kit. These work great in regular stock pots. You just need to make sure that you have something like this in the bottom of your pot, because when you put your jars directly on the bottom of your pot, they can break. And your pot also needs to be tall enough that you can place an inch of water above your canning jars. This is what a jar lifter looks like. The wide mouth funnel is really nice because it sits in the top of your jar, so you can ladle things in the jar without spilling. This is what a vegetable chopper looks like. This is optional, but this is one of the recipes when I use this the most. It is great for chopping tomatoes and onions and bell peppers very quickly, and it also measures them in the bottom of it, so it keeps you from having to measure separately. I think these are about $25, and you can get them on Amazon. It's also on your supply list, so maybe ask for one of these for Christmas this year. You won't regret it. I use mine all the time. Fill your canner with about 3/4 of the way full with water and start getting it to boiling. You also want to sterilize your rings, lids, and jars in the dishwasher. That you need about 4 to 5 pint jars for this recipe. You can reuse jars and rings, but you cannot reuse lids. You need to use new lids every time you can. So first of all, you want to chop your tomatoes, your bell peppers, and your onions either with a knife or in a vegetable chopper or food processor. You want to wear disposable gloves while you're chopping your jalapeno peppers. If you don't, the residue from the peppers can stay on your skin for more than a day after you're exposed to it, and the peppers can get in your nose and your eyes, and it does not wash off with soap and water, absorbs in your skin. So it is easiest to wear disposable gloves. There's also a link to these on your supply list. You can get them at Walmart or on Amazon. You can get a dozen of them at least for just a couple of dollars, so they're very inexpensive. After you get everything chopped up, you want to combine the tomatoes, the bell peppers, the onions, the garlic, salt, pepper, vinegar, and tomato sauce, and simmer it for 10 to 15 minutes. You might notice that I said that this is the best salsa. I've spent a couple of years trying to perfect this recipe. I've tried many different salsa recipes, and a lot of them end up being too runny, and so my husband didn't like them very much because he wanted them to taste like his La Victoria salsa he was used to eating. So I finally figured out that the secret to the salsa is to have the tomato sauce in it. It makes it thicker and it makes it more like store-bought salsa. And in a minute you'll see the clear gel I use too. That also helps make it thicker. So that really is the secret to the best homemade salsa. So after it's simmered for 10 to 15 minutes, you want to stir in the clear gel. Clear gel is a modified cornstarch. It basically is cornstarch, but its chemical composition is a little bit different somehow. Normally you can use cornstarch to thicken, and if you're not going to can something, it's fine to use cornstarch to thicken it. But when you're canning, cornstarch does not hold up when you're boiling water canning. It changes the consistency of it, and it makes whatever you're canning chunky, and it just doesn't look very appetizing after you can it. So one option is to not, if you don't want to use clear gel, you can can it without the clear gel, and then you could always thicken it later with cornstarch, but you would have to heat it up again later. Clear gel is something you can purchase on Amazon. You might have a hard time finding it at the store. It was designed for canning. It makes your sauces thicker. You can use it for salsa, and pie fillings is something it's commonly used for, and it's just really great because you can use it for canning and it doesn't clump up on you like cornstarch does, and it has just a really great consistency. And they have it is made out of corn, and they have gluten-free options too if that's a concern for you. So there is a link to this in the supply list in your course materials. And so, like I said, if you're happy with the consistency of your salsa, you don't need to add this if you think it's thick enough. But if you would like it to be a little thick, which I do, I add about 2/3 a cup of this to my salsa to make it thicker. Then it ends up looking like this. So the clear gel, the ultra clear gel, will thicken something instantly. There's two different kinds of clear gel. The regular clear gel has to be heated to thicken like cornstarch, but the ultra clear gel will thicken instantly, and it doesn't need to be heated. And that's what I buy because then I can use it for anything. And you don't have to use it for canning. You can use it to thicken anything. So I buy mine in bulk and store it in canning jars. So after the sauce thickens, you want to ladle it into sterilized canning jars, leaving a 1/2 inch headspace. The headspace is the amount of space between the top of the salsa and the top of the jar. The headspace is very important when you're canning. Your food expands when it's being heated, when you're processing it. Different kinds of foods expand to different amounts, and so the headspace is important. Each recipe can have its own headspace. So for this recipe, it needs to be a 1/2 inch. Next, you want to wipe the rims of the jars with a damp paper towel or a dish towel and place the rings and the lids on the jars. If you don't wipe them off and leave any food particles on there, it will keep your jars from sealing. You want to place your jars in your canner. The water doesn't have to be boiling when you put the water in, or when you put the jars in, but it needs to be boiling before you start your timer. You want to process these for 15 minutes, and if you live at elevations of 1,000 feet or above, you are going to need to process this recipe for longer to make sure it gets up to the right temperature. So if that's the case, check your course materials for your altitude adjustment chart and make those changes accordingly. But this processing time is for 1,000 feet and below. And just one more note about the boiling water canning. You'll find out as you find out more about canning that a lot of recipes that contain vegetables in them, you cannot can in a boiling water canner. You have to can in a pressure canner. This recipe has enough acid in the recipe in the tomatoes that you are able to process it in the boiling water canner, but this recipe was designed so that it has a certain amount of tomatoes and a certain amount of the low acid vegetables to make it safe for boiling water canning. So if you're going to adjust the ingredients in this recipe, do not adjust the amount of tomatoes or the amount of vegetables, other vegetables, because they're in a certain proportion to each other to make it safe for boiling water canning. So if you're going to change anything in the recipe, you can change the spices, like the amount of salt and pepper, or if you want to add other spices like cumin to it or cayenne pepper or something, you can add that to the recipe, but don't change the amounts of onions and peppers and tomatoes, or you may make it unsafe for canning in a boiling water canner. After the time is up, use a jar lifter or tongs to remove the jars from the canner and set them on a towel to cool. Within the next 15 to 20 minutes, you should hear a pinging noise indicating that your jars have sealed. You can check the seal by pushing your finger down in the middle of the lid. If the lid goes down and up again, then it is not sealed. It should be totally flat. If you do have a jar that doesn't seal, it can still be eaten. Just put it in the refrigerator and eat it the next couple weeks. The sealed jars can be stored in a dark area for 1 to 2 years or more. It was just this last year that I perfected this recipe, and I was really excited about it. We canned probably at least 25 jars of it last year, half a medium salsa and half a hot salsa for the people that like hot salsa. It's been really popular with our friends and family. We've given a lot of it away, so I'm going to have to grow some more tomatoes this year so I can make a bunch more salsa. I was really excited about it. It was one of my favorite things that I've canned lately, besides the sweet and sour sauce. We really like that too. So anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope to see you again soon.